Hi everyone, it's Annabelle. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be updating on my Rupicolous Laelias, and these are some Laelias that I got about 6 months ago in a haul that I unboxed from two different sellers, Spicesotic-plants and a new eBay seller. I'll link you to that unboxing and my initial chat about them up in the corner and down below in the description. And I'm going to be repotting them because a couple of them are drying out extremely quickly in the little cups that I initially potted them into, and I want to get into the root system of the Crispilabia because it had a lot of roots when I unpotted it, and I've repotted it into an inorganic self-watering mix with ceramis, leca and pumice, and I can see lots of new roots going down, but I suspect the old roots have died off because that often happens with any Cattleya types, to be honest, and also with transitions into new media. So I'm going to be repotting the Crispilabia on camera and then doing a general update at the end for all of them. So the Crispilabia is supposedly a cooler growing, sort of semi-miniature Rupicolous Laelia. It's found growing on iron ore in higher elevation mountain forests in Brazil. So it's in sort of higher elevation, cooler growing potentially. But I've personally not found it to be having any difficulty with my warmer temperatures. So as you know, I'm in the UK, but I'm growing in a spare bedroom with lots of lights. So my environment actually more closely mimics a warmer environment. Temperatures vary between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius. At the moment they're staying about 25 to 27 degrees Celsius day temperatures. This one hasn't struggled at all. The older growths were a bit yellowed when I got it and they haven't regained greenness, but it's put out quite a lot of new growth, and as you can see we've got a really great root system. Look at all the branching there. I'm going to show you a little bit of root porn here. Like, all of those little nubs are starting to branch along the root. You can see the very starts of little branching tips, which I find so fascinating. So it's put out new roots, and then those new roots are just branching amazingly. What I really want to do is get right into the middle of this older root ball though that I didn't mess around with when I first got it. It was in moss, and I damaged a lot of the old roots trying to get all the moss ball out from the middle, but I really want to get all of those old dead roots out from the middle and just have a fresh clean start now that we've got such great root growth going on in the inorganic media. So it's adjusting, it's putting new roots down, it's branching those fantastically into the ceramis leca mix, so it's adapting to that really well. What I want to do is put it into a new pot that I've kind of made with a reservoir gauge. So I did a video on me DIYing these pots with reservoir gauges previously, so I'll link that again up in the corner and down below. I'm going to put them into that because I think that those pots are so adorable and I really think they're going to suit the Rupicolous Laelias. So first of all, I'm just going to take off all this old dead root system. I'm going to be super careful because I don't want to cut any of those gorgeous new branching roots. I'm just going to go through and cut off all of the dead roots here. I'm going to fast forward through that so that it's not too long for you guys. I'm just going to be super careful and get all of those dead roots. So I've taken off all of the dead roots. Some of the ones that I've left on are brown stained, but they are firm and a lot of them are branching. So I've left them alone because they are clearly alive. I'll show you what I've taken off. I've taken off quite a lot of roots that I felt were either completely dead or would be dying very soon and weren't in the best condition. So we're giving this a nice fresh clean start, all of the dead roots trimmed off and into a new pot. Now I have shown you these pots before. I did a video on how I was DIYing some reservoir gauges for these cute little pots that I got, and I had the Rupicolous Laelias in mind when I bought them because I think they're just the perfect kind of size for it. So I'm just going to pop this in the pot, and I know it looks maybe like the pot's a little bit small, but this will allow me to monitor the water level really carefully because I've got a water reservoir gauge in there. So I'm just going to gently wind the root system into the pot and just place the orchid and just tuck those roots very, very carefully into the pot. I've got plenty of root space in this pot for it to grow into, and we have quite a lot of space either side of the main growths of the plant, so they've got room for sort of 2 or 3 more growths each per direction of growth. So this is absolutely fine for now, and obviously when I up pot I will want to be going quite a lot bigger, I think, but for now this is absolutely fine. And it'll also give me an opportunity to really kind of monitor how much these are drinking, because they have been drying out so quickly. They seem to be super thirsty. Now, Rupicolous Laelias are reputedly quite fussy. They're cooler growing, higher elevation Laelias, often found growing on rocks. The name Rupicolous means rock dwelling. So they're found on rocks often, and this particular Laelia is often found growing on iron ore, so it potentially has higher iron requirements. That's not necessarily true for all of the Rupicolous Laelias, but they do have a reputation for liking a little bit more iron because of where they are found in nature. I do feed rain mix, which has iron in, and I also, for these, have been alternating the maxicrop seaweed with additional iron based on that. I'm not sure if that is actually strictly necessary though, because the times when I haven't noticed any differences. I'm just kind of been doing it because that's what I've read about how they grow in nature, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I've been including a little bit extra iron, and we'll see long term whether this seems to be making a lot of difference. If my Laelias are looking really amazing, maybe that's something to do with it. But I've had these 6 months-ish, so they're just getting established in my environment. They're just getting new roots putting out into the new media and starting to get into growth. And I've noticed that since the temperatures have risen, they've really kicked up their growth. They don't seem to be bothered by the higher temperatures or higher light that I'm giving them at all. So yeah, I would say that I don't necessarily find them fussy, but what I think they probably do enjoy is quite a lot of moisture with the higher temperatures, which obviously I give them in the inorganic self-watering setups, so that could be a contributing factor. So as you see, I'm putting this into a mix of Ceramis, lava rock, lacquer, and also some small grade lacquer called Super Light Black, which is from a bonsai supply store. It's quite a coarse but fine mix, if that makes sense. It's got quite a lot of air gaps and aeration, but it's a nice fine mix. And in between each layer of when I'm doing this, what I'm doing is taking it to the tap and flushing it really hard through the tap to settle all of that fine media more into the root ball in the middle. They're often found sort of with they're growing on rocks with their roots kind of buried in algae and moss and sand and debris. Some of them are found growing on actually exposed cliff faces, but even then they're kind of partially covered, I think. So they do seem to enjoy a little bit more moisture, I think. Although, obviously, I do tend to treat Cattleya types with a bit more moisture maybe than is traditionally given with the semi-hydro setups, but that's why I've used Ceramis for these guys instead of semi-hydro with lacquer. I'm just going to cover them up in an aquarium gravel top layer to stop any algae growing on the Ceramis and to also stop that kind of dry top layer, which isn't so much of an issue for Ceramis, but it might be as summer goes on, it might get a little bit dry. So that is the Crispilabia all repotted. Next we're going to update on a couple of my other Rupicolous Laelias. So these are the extremely small minis, so I've got 3 in this category, but one of them isn't actually technically a Laelia, it's a Sophronitis. I do kind of think of them as the same though, and the care that I give them is the same for my Sophronitis coccinea and my Rupicolous Laelias. And the Sophronitis is often found growing on rocks, so I think of them as the same. They're a bit cooler growing too. First of all, we're going to update on my Laelia flavasulina, which is this super cute little guy, very, very bushy, and was extremely healthy when I got it and has just continued to thrive. It had lots of new growths when I got it. This is found at slightly lower elevations than some of the Rupicolous Laelias, but still quite high. All of these details are taken from the internet, from orchid species, and that's a fantastic resource for finding out how to care for the orchids. And what I've done for each of these is I've popped a little bit about them in the below the name on screen. So you can see it's got lots of new growths. I've kind of buried them a little bit but it's doing very well. Nice fat little bulbs. Very, very cute, very healthy looking orchid as far as I'm concerned, and the root system on it was really great, and that's why I kind of thought I'd do an update now. I didn't want to film all the repots, but I just thought film one repot and then just do a general update. I don't know if you can see in there, but there's a little new growth just starting in there. And yeah, I'm just really happy with how they've done, and I had anticipated them being a bit more of a challenge. I'll put a picture up on screen of when I first got it. This one was quite bushy when I got it, but you can see it has grown probably in 2 or 3 directions of growth since I got it. Next up, we're going to be updating on the Laelia cardimii, which is also now called blumenscheinii. Sorry about the pronunciation there. So this one's found around 1,200 meters as a lithophyte, so it's found growing on rocks. No surprise there, Rupicolous Laelia. This one I absolutely love because it's got almost terete leaves. It's so chubby and cute and fat. I absolutely love it. I would have loads of these. There are lots of these kind of cute pencil-like Rupicolous Laelias. I think are absolutely gorgeous. See how chubby and fat they are. Again, I'll put a picture up on screen of when I got it. It has grown a bit. It's been a bit slower growing, but we've now actually got so many new growths popping out of it. I'm really happy with how it's doing again. And yeah, this one has been drinking super fast though, so I do think this one really does like a lot of moisture. For scale, you can see the size of my hand compared to it. Next up, we're going to be looking at my Sophronitis coccinea. I got this one from Spicesotic-plants. It's quite widely distributed, can be epiphytic or lithophytic, and it's often found on like coastal mountain forests. Doing really well. I'll put a picture up on screen again of when I got it compared to now, but I've got about 4 new growths popping up on this now. And like I said, my growing room's kept hot, so I don't think keeping these cool is as vital, but I do think keeping them well watered is quite vital. So you can see the growth from 6 months ago to now has been amazing. So this little Sophronitis has been such a little vigorous grower for me. Super cute, super tiny, and produces a really beautiful red flower. So those are my super minis, as you can see from my size of my hand. Won't take up much room on your shelf, and they seem to be very easy growing for me. I haven't really faced too many challenges with them, and I've really enjoyed growing them. So these ones are still, I would say, small, but they're a bit bigger, if that makes sense. So they are still miniature, but they are going to take up a bit more room. I do really like them in their own way, and I particularly like the kind of chubbiness of the bulbs that you get. So this one actually isn't a pure species. This is Laelia lucasiana, which is a Rupicolous Laelia, and that's a cool growing, very high elevation one. But that's crossed with Cattleya harrisoniana, which is more of an intermediate, larger Cattleya type. So this isn't a pure species Rupicolous Laelia, it's half Rupicolous Laelia. So it's half of a little rock lover. Very cute, very chubby little bulbs. I put a picture up on screen of when I first got it. It has grown hugely for me. And there was a little back bulb division, which is also now starting a new growth there. But yeah, it's just grown very quickly for me. And the Cattleya harrisoniana is also supposed to be fragrant. So this one, when it blooms, might be fragrant. I'm not sure how big this is going to get because the harrisoniana can be quite big. Whereas the lucasiana is a very tiny little Rupicolous Laelia, almost with the terete leaves. So this one might get quite a bit bigger. So that's kind of an update of my Rupicolous Laelias. Obviously the Crispilabia and the lucasiana crossed with harrisoniana are both the bigger kind of Rupicolous Laelias and hybrid that I have, and then the other 3 are smaller. And I know Sophronitis isn't technically a Rupicolous Laelia, but I sort of include it in that category because of where it grows, how it grows, temperatures it likes, and just its growth pattern. I wanted to do this update because when I unboxed them, there actually wasn't loads of information out there on their care. There's a lot of info on forums and on orchid species, but not necessarily on YouTube. And at the same time that I got these, Miss Orchid Girl also ordered some and received them, and my friend Nina also received some Rupicolous Laelias, and I commented how strange it was that we were all getting them at the same time. There was obviously an influx into the European supply chain for them, and I thought it would be really interesting to update. in an effort to kind of put more information out there about them in different environments as kind of a group project, myself and Nina both decided to update together because we got them at the same time, and Nina has since started a YouTube channel. So I'll direct you to her update video, which I think she's going to have uploaded a little bit before me, and we got them at basically exactly the same time, so you can see kind of how hers are doing, how mine are doing, and as a kind of community Laelia project. I hope that this update's been useful and interesting for you guys, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this update, don't forget to give it a like or subscribe to my channel for more regular orchid updates and care information. And I'll see you guys all later. Bye!